Okay, not much happened this chapter, to be fair, but we did finally get to see that Takaba got his confidence back. And considering the fact that realistically nothing that Kenjaku does is going to do anything to Takaba, we're going to see a domain battle, right? Now, I feel like the next step is a domain battle, right? This happened with Tsukumo's, like, okay, we clearly can't get past the curse technique. Same thing happened with Gojo and Sukuna. So I feel like Kenjaku's gonna try to use his domain. Now, do I think it'll work? You do have to consider the fact that a domain should technically cancel out the other person's curse technique as long as they don't open up their own domain. Do I think Takaba has a domain? No, but I think it's also probably gonna be something close to what Hakari or Higuruma has, right? Where the curse technique has a domain kind of innate with it because he's already affecting everything, right? He can affect the world, the universe, if you will, right? Kind of like a gag character. So something tells me that either it'll prevent Kenjaku from opening up his domain, or rather, when he opens it up, it'll not work. Because I feel like Takaba's is gonna transcend above the domain, since he affects the world entirely. Although it's just like in that specific location, I think it's a whole world altering ability, which means that anything in the world gets affected. So if Kenjaku opens up his domain, technically it'll be combating against Takaba's domain. Like Takaba's domain is the whole world. So whenever his curse technique applies upon the domain, and it's guaranteed to hit, right? There's no way to deactivate his domain outside of making him not confident. But there's no way for you to be like the simple domain or whatever it is, the one that Sukuna was using to get past the infinity. Like that doesn't really work with Takaba's curse technique. At least I don't think it would work. So I think Takaba's got this. And even if he doesn't, and he somehow gets caught in the domain, I feel like someone else might jump in. Who might that be? Again, I'm kind of going for Yuta, but I don't know. Although I have been, again, coping a little bit that Gojo's coming back and he's going to activate his. He's going to evolve, right? Because everyone's evolving their soul, right? Because Sukuna turned into basically the perfect sorcerer. Mahito turned into the perfect killing machine. And now I feel like Gojo's going to reawaken and turn into the perfect defender. Considering the fact, because this is another thing that I consider, right? One, again, I believe that Gojo let himself get killed, right? There's no way he couldn't dodge the strike. He's the fastest in the verse, right? The second fastest is Naobito, and that's only because of the 24 frames or whatever. But he can compress coordinates. Even Sukuna got, shook when he first saw him, when he fought him again, when Yuji first took over him in like the first chapter, second chapter. So he's fast. There's no way he couldn't have dodged it. And he just got his ability back. He had his curse technique, reverse curse technique, everything. There's no way he could have just teleported behind him. But I feel like Gojo, if he comes back, is going to apply his own curse technique the same way that Sukuna did, where instead of just cutting people or like things, he cuts the whole world, right? Because if you think about it, Gojo's ability, his curse technique is infinity, right? It's not infinite distance. It's just infinity. The thing is that the typical application of it is an infinite barrier, right? Where the distance between you and the opponent or anything coming towards you is infinite. Now the thing is, the cut through everything. It cut through the infinity. But why not apply that infinity to time? Because although the world cutting slices that Sukuna has now, cut through everything, do they cut through time? Through space itself, because it shows whenever something solid gets cut, it's like it looks black from the inside, like it's been erased completely. But the space around it is fine, right? And also it takes time to get to Gojo or to anyone, right? In this case, the one we actually got to see was it takes time to get to Kashimo, right? So if he applies the infinity to time itself, so instead of it taking an infinite distance, but an infinite time, that might be able to stop the slices. Because it's no longer a fact of, it doesn't have to cross the distance because it cuts through everything, but it still takes time to get there. But now it's taking an infinite amount of time, so it'll slow down. Instead of stopping, like it never stops. The infinity doesn't stop things. It just makes it so that it has to cross an infinite distance, which essentially stops it, right? But instead of taking an infinite distance, because the slice cuts through the distance, it cuts through everything, through the infinity, it still takes time. So if it takes an infinite amount of time to get to him, it'll slow it down. Because it's not cutting through time, it's cutting through the world. It's cutting through the distance, right? The distance is a physical, tangible thing. But time, now that's something it's not cutting through. Like, how would you cut time? Like, how would you cut through time, right? I mean, he can literally do imaginary numbers and imaginary mass to cause purple, right? Which deletes stuff. Why can't he apply infinity to time? And I also had the thought of the way he learned that you can make a smaller barrier from the prison realm, where it's smaller on the inside than it is on the outside. Oh no, it's bigger in the inside than it is on the outside, because he saw the prison realm. Also, time flows differently, right? So maybe that's another lesson he learned from the prison realm, where he feels the flow of time differently, so he can apply his infinity to time. And you know, it's not even that far-fetched considering the fact that we know he used already the experience in the prison realm. Like he was observant of his surroundings. Like it's bigger here, but I know it's smaller on the outside, and he could visualize it. Now, if you and he even explained it before, like with Shinichi, I forget, the suit guy, right? He told him how it felt like a busy week, but it's like a weekend, like really short. So he also explained that he also felt the way the time flowed. So maybe he will eventually expand it to time. That way he can bypass the bypass of Sukuna, right? Again, I'm telling you, he should have gone for the head, because as long as his head's still there, reverse curse technique, people can save him. Other people are in the battle right now, but that's besides the point. Takaba right now, he's gonna do good. If they open the domain, I feel like it won't matter, because Takaba's ability just goes beyond domain territory, right? Where it's a conflict of space, because Takaba's ability is universal, if you will, right? So you're technically always in his domain, or rather, he could just think it's funny, and that's another thing you have to consider. Is he thinking, oh, it'd be funny if I didn't take damage? No, right? But he still doesn't take damage. But that's simply because of the way his ability works. Because it's like the PG nature of like TV, like it operates in the guidelines of Japanese television, right? Where you can't show blood or anything, like you can't, like extreme bodily injury, and that's why Takaba doesn't get hurt. Which is why I think it might not just be that it has to be found funny, right? Because how can you consider Kenjaku thinking that, oh, the Dogaza is like a perfect golden spiral, right? How can he think that's funny if he can't hear his thoughts? Unless you think Takaba can read his thoughts, which I don't think he can. But the way that he manipulates, in a way that, yes, it'd be funny, like, oh, it's funny how he thinks it's perfect. But at the same time, that's beyond what even Takaba could realize. Like, he doesn't even realize that it's funny. Same thing with, like I was saying, the fact that he doesn't get hurt. How is that funny? Is he constantly thinking, oh, that it'd be funny if I didn't take damage? No, at least I don't think so. So we still have to, I still think we don't have the full picture of the full extent of the ability of Takaba's curse technique, right? Also, maybe he does have a domain expansion, right? Or maybe he'll face the domain expansion and think it's funny or whatever, or he'll try to expand his own domain and it'll just work. Simply because that's how his curse technique works. Either way, it can go either way. Also, we're on break this week, so no new chapter, sadly. But I feel like we're still going to go for like 2-3 more chapters on this specific battle. Then after that, we'll go back to, obviously, to Sukuna. Then again, we could go into a few flashbacks of the gang preparing for the fight against Sukuna and the plan that Gojo actually had to go against them. Either way, we just have to wait 2 weeks this time. But if you have any other thoughts, if you have any thoughts on the Gojo theory thing I was just saying, feel free to leave it in the comments. If you liked it, like it. If you want to hear what I think about it next 2 weeks when the next chapter comes out, feel free to subscribe, hit the bell. But other than that, I mean, that was pretty much it. There's not much else to say. Not that much happened. Mostly exposition of why Takaba wanted to be a sorcerer. Or not a sorcerer, but a comedian. Hence why he has his confidence back. It's pretty much it. He didn't really do much after that. But I guess we'll have to wait and see.